As patients and their families experience the sadness and sweetness of life in its final days, Munson Hospice is there, enriching the end of life, giving families time to love, to forgive, to laugh, to cry, and simply to say, I love you.
I do not know how I would have managed without Munson Hospice. I really don't.
The benefit of having hospice is apparent immediately because the end-of-life care is something that I knew nothing about.
They always were encouraging to me that we'd get through it and it would be okay. And it was okay.
It's wonderful to be able to be in charge of how you leave this earth, too. I am not afraid. And hospice has helped me to get to that place.
At 90, Josephine Lehmkuhl loves her family, listening to music and playing skip bow. She's had a wonderful life filled with too many blessings to count and is enjoying the services of Munson Hospice at her assisted living home.
If the patient says, I'm tired of all these treatments, I'm tired of going to the hospital, then it's time then to have the conversation with the doctor to say, what are the other options? Is it time to call in Munson Hospice?
Judy asked me if I wanted to go back to the hospital, and I said no. And she asked me then if I'd like to join hospice, and I was glad to do it.
Mom has really taken to the hospice concept.
Nancy, my nurse that comes every week, is just a special friend. She's so loving and funny, and we just visit a lot. And I just love her. She really brightens my day, yes.
She loves having her nurse, her hospice aide, her social worker, her chaplain, her volunteer who comes to visit her. She loves having all those people in her life now. They've added a lot of quality to her life.
I think they've made my life better, much better, because I can look forward to the good things.
She wanted to go to a family reunion. I really wasn't available, my brothers weren't, and she told her nurse this was her big goal for the summer. So we immediately made sure Mom made it to the family reunion, took lots of great pictures, and really enjoyed watching her interact, because through the hospice program she was able to say what her goal was and to achieve her goal.
I like Dr. Fraser's theory that I should just relax and enjoy what I can enjoy. I love that.
The care she's receiving has just made her bloom and grow, and to be able to live so well. Her symptoms are so well managed with her current plan of care.
Well, I think my faith has a lot to do with the fact that I'm very relaxed about the end of my life. We're ending our life, and what's gone is gone, and what's ahead will be wonderful.
Charlie Anson died from colon cancer in 2006. 5 days before his death, Munson Hospice began providing services to him in his home. His wife, Alice, is now a Munson Hospice volunteer at Hospice House.
It's a very scary thing to go into hospice, to acknowledge, to make that phone call and say, we need hospice, or to acknowledge, to have your doctor acknowledge it to you that maybe it's time. It creates this real, all of a sudden, here we are. This is it. And when hospice arrived at the house, it was sort of like, oh, this is true. This is what's happening. And it's very unreal. But these people are going to help us through it. It was almost like a relief to all of us. It was like someone else was helping us get through this unknown maze that we had no clue on what to expect. It's all unknown. They came when they were needed. They stayed as long as they were needed. They did what was needed, and they were just a welcoming, calming effect on all of us. About a day before Charlie died, I was getting worried about him being scared. It was upsetting me. And Larry, the social worker, was visiting at that point, and so I mentioned it to him, and he suggested that I go and ask Charlie. So I went in the room and kicked everyone out and sat down next to the bed and asked him. And his eyes were closed, and he said, "No." And he opened his eyes and looked at me and he said, "Are you?" So we talked, and it was nice. The difference it made having hospice there at the end is the difference probably between Charlie dying in a hospital bed with me sitting there and the kids sitting there and us with sad faces and just not exactly knowing what's going on because nobody would tell us probably, to us sitting next to his bed with the animals around us and chatting with him and listening to music and being in that moment all together. Munson Hospice seems to bring the family together, so the patient himself is not separated. He is part of this process we're going through, and we're part of the process he's going through.
Julia Brown's husband Wayne had chemotherapy, radiation, and experimental drug treatments for stage 4 brain cancer. Nothing was working. Wayne's doctor recommended Munson Hospice, and he received hospice care at home.
Well, I think the greatest benefit for using Munson Hospice is probably the load is taken off your shoulders. You have someone who knows what is going on. As I got to know my hospice nurse, she would come in and she could keep me informed of each thing that was going on with Brownie. I got a chance to ask a lot of questions, and she explained all of the things that were available to me. And in the 5 months between the medications being delivered to my house, the equipment, the bed, the wheelchair, the walker, the oxygen tanks, and the home health care person, Ed, who came and sat with him for 4 hours every week, the respite care. I went to my granddaughter's graduation. I went to my niece's wedding, and they came and got him and brought him back. So he was always cared for. I did not worry about it. I would recommend using Munson Hospice the second you know nothing is going to work. All I wanted was for him to not be in pain. I wanted him to be comfortable. I was not expecting anything miraculous. It was just making the end part of his life as good as the rest of his life had been, as peaceful as he was, and it worked. It worked. It was peaceful. No one expected him to last 5 months, but I don't care if it was just a week. I could not have done it. They had everything here and telling me how to do it. I'm not a nurse. And the hospice nurses know how to do everything for you. I could not have done this without them. I just couldn't. I can't sing their praises enough. They were part of my life, and I will never, ever forget them. They were wonderful.
Sue Bessie and her husband Tom have lived for 40 years on a farm near Thompsonville. Sue is a mother, grandmother, a township clerk, a former airport manager, and she has end-stage liver cancer. She is a Munson Hospice patient receiving care at home.
As soon as you make that decision that you're not going to seek treatment, you have terminal cancer, I think it's a good time to at least call and talk to hospice and find out what they have to offer that you may need. And I think that if you go with hospice in the early stages, you have so much time to figure all this stuff out. You don't feel rushed. You don't feel like, I have to do this today. I felt that I wanted to get to know my hospice people and have my family be comfortable around them, because They'll also help my family when, when something happens to me. I can just sit back and concentrate on my family and my friends and the things that I like to do. There are still questions that you need to ask your hospice worker, and no matter what it is, they always seem to have an answer, and a helpful one. I have been very satisfied with the people I've been working with through hospice. They all have a lot of empathy. They're very, they're just common, ordinary people. When they come into your house, it's, they just accept you for what you are. They're talking to you as a friend would talk to you. If you say you need something, they know the number to call. They're on the phone. They're explaining things to you. They're just very, very willing to help in any way that they can. You can't take anything or anyone with you. So it's your journey. And you do have a say in what you need and in what will make you the happiest. Just because you're on hospice doesn't mean that you're going to die tomorrow. Hospice gives you a little more life, a little more time. I'm definitely feeling ready and prepared. I'm at peace with it. And all these people just kind of help along that way.